what do you want to be remembered for next?
Well, I'm very, very proud of the work I've done getting mental health courts established. They're a different way to treat people who have mental health issues, and I like to think even nationally I've been able to move the needle in how people consider that. And to me, the veterans issue is sort of almost an evolution of that, because as I started working more and more on mental health issues, I found that veterans are often entering our system who really have, beyond the typical mental health issues we see, they have a lot of post-traumatic stress disorder, and now particularly traumatic brain injury, which is clearly often misdiagnosed. In fact, I will have Chris Davies send out to you, I have 2 packets, a mental health packet and a Veterans Court packet, that summarize a lot of the work I do, so you can delve into it more deeply than I am able to share. But I was able to then get appointed to a VA committee that started this program, and I think those are 2 things I'm very proud of. But I also was extremely involved in the Senate bill, or House Bill 86, prison reforms. I worked for years with Council for State Government. I was appointed by Governor Strickland on the task force that shepherded that thing through, and had a lot to do with that happening and becoming into law, though my role is very background. Most people didn't see me in a very public role, but I was very heavily involved. So a lot of things like that, mostly in the criminal justice reform areas, I think is where I'm proud of the accomplishments. But I don't feel like I'm even scratched the surface. There's much more to be done that I hope to do.
Could you give us some examples of how you felt limited by your current role? I mean, other than the fact that you have a heavy workload.
Yeah.
Were there times when you felt that you wanted to speak out and you couldn't speak out?
Well, the ethical restrictions on our justice are that you can only advocate for the administration of justice. So many times different folks would come to me and want me to advocate for a purely social issue in the field of mental health or some other area. And I was always very careful to say I have to stay within my ethical boundaries. In fact, when I had my advisory committee on mental illness in the courts, I was constantly saying to my committee, I can't really deal with that. It's a policy decision, it's a legislative decision. I need to stay within my boundaries. When Mike DeWine invited me to co-chair with him, it was actually liberating, because if it was something that I couldn't advocate, he didn't have the similar restrictions, and he was free to advocate for an issue that may involve social change rather than court administration issues. So by no longer being a justice, once I step down at the end of this year, I can advocate for issues that may be policy changes that even are broader than the administration of justice. So that would be a freedom that I would be able to engage in.
Did you find that frustrating?
And not really, because there was so much work to be done just on the administration of justice side that I had plenty to do, and I didn't need to step outside those bounds. So my focus will still be on the courts, because that's where my expertise is. That's the expertise I will offer when I consult with other states. I've had a couple invitations that I haven't been able to follow up on, but now I can. So I'll be free to do that, but I still believe as I said, my expertise is it's the court system, and that's where I hope to offer my background and my training and such.
Sounds like you'll be just as busy just doing other things.
Well, someone said, well, you're going to go take a long vacation and your husband going to see you more, because everyone said, well, I'm going to spend more time with my family. And I said to my husband, I might be gone more. I might be traveling more. He said, that's okay, that's okay.
So this announcement seemed kind of quick. Is there a reason that it happened so quickly that you didn't let it
down? Yeah, somebody leaked something to somebody. I felt very obligated to roll it out in a proper way. I wanted to speak to the governor first. I wanted to tell my justices second. I wanted to come see my party chairman, Bob Bennett, next. And so I had this game plan that I wasn't going to start for a couple of weeks. And on Friday I got a call that the rumors on the street that I might be leaving at the end of this year. I don't know where it came from or how it happened. And it forced me to fast track everything, which meant that so I rushed to prepare the statement and see the governor yesterday, which he kind of fit me in on his schedule. I was able to tell my justices, but I was going to tell them at the end of the day when I got the notice that they hit the press in the middle of conference. So I gave them my votes and left to deal with all of you. Yeah.
So was your original plan to announce closer to the
No, it was just in a couple of weeks, so it's only moved up by a couple of weeks. I felt like I wanted to give 6 months notice so that my staff had time to find jobs, so that the governor could do a very careful search for my replacement and not be rushed in the process. just to deal with transition, and to give me time then to feel free to talk to people while it's publicly known, because obviously somebody talked, so as soon as I talked to somebody, somebody would have talked, and I didn't want to do that. So I wanted to have a chance to get it to my justices first before I rolled it out to people that I might want to work with in the future. So that was my best laid plan.
Did you give the governor any names, and would you mind sharing any
No,
of those?
I didn't. My request to him and his commitment to me was to pick the best possible person without any regard to politics or otherwise, and he assured me that that was his goal. He would pick the best possible person that would be above reproach, and that when he picked that person, people would say that is a good choice. And I said, Governor, that's all I could ask for. I don't have any particular name to give him.
Even if it's a Democrat?
I left it up to him.
I was a few minutes late, but I wondered if you addressed the fact that you decided this sort of midterm as opposed to deciding it before running for this term.
I had decided that I was giving thought to not running again, because it's a very consumptive thing. And as I had mentioned earlier, running meant that I had to shut down a lot of my work on all these causes because I have to campaign. Although both the last two campaigns, I have actually been able to advance my causes, because every speech I gave, I managed to fit in mental health courts or veterans courts. I don't care what the audience was, so it actually helped me get my word out. But once I started thinking along those lines, the process started accelerating, and some opportunities came up that I was afraid if I sat on for 2 more years, they would be gone. So I now can pursue those and see.
If this were still afforded through court, would you do this?
Oh, yes.
You would leave anyhow?
Yes.
Just as a follow-up to your comments about the election, and when you were thinking about not running for re-election, did part of that reasoning or thinking involve what Chief Justice Moyer has described as being the changing of the Supreme Court elections in Ohio, the requirement to raise money and that sort of thing?
No, my original plan was to finish my term out and just retire at that point, or change careers at that point, because I'm not really retiring per se. But it really became a personal decision that I just didn't feel that I wanted to stay in this job those 2 more years and give up the opportunities to work nationally on this issue. So my original plan was just to finish out the term. But I was going to announce, if I stayed on that track, I was going to announce at the beginning of next year, so whoever wanted the seat would have plenty of time to, move to do the things. I was appointed originally, and I got appointed in March and had to be elected that November. That's crazy, to run a statewide race with no preparation. I didn't want to do that to anybody, so I was going to give them plenty of notice for whoever wanted to run for it. This will still give them plenty of opportunity to gear up, just like Justice McGee Brown has had 2 years to gear up. But my original intent was to just step down at the end of my term if I stayed with that, but I just really don't want to wait that long.